A pastor in Miami comes under fire because he speaks about homosexuality during his sermon. I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. Matt, we've said for a long time that this homosexual agenda is radical to the core. It wants to silence people, and that ultimately it will find its way into the pulpit to try to silence pastors from even speaking on the issue of homosexuality. And that's, in fact, what we see down in Miami, where there was an attempt to intimidate a pastor because of what he said in the pulpit on Sunday. And this is from a school board superintendent, simply because the pastor in the church rented the facility in that school on Sunday. Like any other organization or group from the outside, this superintendent thought he had the right to be able to silence and censor the message dealing with homosexuality.
Yeah, here is a tangible example of the government stepping in and attempting to censor religious speech and to threaten to shut down that speech if they find that speech displeasing, or if they happen to disagree with that speech. You can't get a more cut and dry example of a violation of the Constitution by a public official here. And it's chilling, and it seems that on this issue of homosexuality, for some reason, this is the head of the spear, if you will. This is the issue that the left absolutely intends to silence and punish anybody who does not completely toe the radical homosexual activist line.
Well, the pastor there was speaking on Sunday in this church, and this particular church called Impact Miami Church leases the facility on Sunday at this school, the North Miami High School in Miami-Dade County, Florida. And like anyone else, they have the right to be able to lease this facility. The lease is fine. This is perfectly permissible. In fact, if the school said no to the church, it would ultimately violate the Constitution by discriminating against a viewpoint. So this church is operating, and on Sunday, someone goes in there and records the message that this pastor is speaking on that particular day. And here's what he said. Quote, "The reason why I'm dealing with homosexuality so much is because there is an aggressive approach by gay theologians that says the Bible never spoke about homosexuality in a way that contemporary Christians understand it. It's all over. It's on YouTube. It's on CNN. And it's on 60 Minutes, he says. There are not just saying, accept us, and I believe we should protect and not bully and treat all people with dignity and respect. But they are going beyond and above to change the very meaning of Scripture." That's it.
That's it. Totally innocuous, biblically solid, full of truth, respectful, in no way threatening, and just that little bit. It's kind of like with the Chick-fil-A thing we've been talking about this week. Even the most genteel, respectful opposition to the homosexual, radical homosexual activist movement, and they want to destroy you.
Yeah.
It is, and it's ramping up.
And he specifically says that we should protect and not bully and treat all people equally, or with dignity, he says, and respect. But he says that this group, these people, and he's talking about theologians and other people who are trying to change the meaning of Scripture, that they're going above and beyond just accept us to actually wanting to change the very definition of Scripture and the meaning of Scripture. As a result of that...
And there's a word for that, apostasy.
And as a result of that, this information was given to the superintendent, this taping of the message, and that was the part of the message that he talked about homosexuality. And the superintendent then went out and said, we're going to review the lease. And ultimately, that very statement itself was trying to silence this pastor. Well, Liberty Counsel got involved, and we sent 2 letters to the superintendent and to the school board, and said that if you take any adverse action, if you modify this lease, if you revoke this lease, if you take any adverse action against the church, this is unconstitutional because you would be doing it on the basis of his viewpoint, his scriptural viewpoint, and you're going to lose that battle, and they will lose that battle. And we stood up for the pastor here. Now, the good news is that the superintendent, Alberto Carvalho, the superintendent of schools there, then ultimately responded by giving a memo to the board members saying that there was no evidence that there was any anti-Semitic statements. and there was no evidence there was no legal basis for them to actually revoke the lease. It says that after legal review, there will be no action on the part of the school district to terminate the contract as long as the church continues to make the lease payments, et cetera, just like anybody else. The school district acknowledges the constitutional right of all persons and their right to express themselves freely.
And that's a tremendous victory. It's chalk up another win for Liberty Counsel. However, the damage is done. And the point is just the mere fact alone that they sent this shot over the bow. We're trying to make an example of this pastor by publicly reviewing his lease. That is a threat. That has a chilling effect on free speech. That's what they're trying to do. That's what the homosexual bullies want to do, is to intimidate people into silence, even if they can push it all the way up to the point of delving into unconstitutional activity and then back it off a little bit, which this superintendent has done here. The point is that the chilling effect has already taken place. The damage is already done. They know exactly what they're doing. I'm not saying that this particular superintendent knew exactly what they were doing, but this is an example of how they will push the envelope all the way up to the edge of unconstitutionality in order to try to intimidate people into silence.
Well, it's also an example of if you don't push back, they'll just continue to try to silence you.
What if Liberty Counsel wasn't there?
And they'll just continue to move forward and silence other people by making these statements. But this is just another example of the Chick-fil-A situation. You know, we said, and I wrote an article in the Liberator on this issue, that this is not an isolated issue with Chick-fil-A. It's just the most visible manifestation of what happens. This is another example. It may not have been as widely publicized, although it did get a lot of media, as the Chick-fil-A issue, but it's the same thing. This pastor speaks about homosexuality, says you should not bully, and you should protect people and respect their dignity, but they're going far beyond that because they want to change the meaning of Scripture. And as a result, he becomes the target. The superintendent actually engages in a press conference saying that they're going to review this lease. This kind of thing is progressing more and more. And, 10 years ago, we wouldn't have seen some of this. 15 years ago, we wouldn't have seen this kind of aggressiveness, but it's getting more aggressive. And I think that these are examples that people need to wake up to.
Well, and the lesson to take away from this, as you point out, is that you have to stand up. As with the Chick-fil-A situation, when Mike Huckabee, other people got involved, the Reverend Billy Graham, and millions of Americans stood up to the radical homosexualists and said, no, we are going to stand behind natural marriage. We're going to stand up for Chick-fil-A. I bet you Chick-fil-A's numbers over the next couple of years, they are going to continue to boom. The Lord blesses those who love him and those who do good, and those who wish to do evil, God will take that evil and use it for good. We saw this in Miami-Dade. We saw it with the Chick-fil-A thing. You have to stand up to the leftist paper tigers. They'll back down. They're just a lot of bluster and not a whole lot of action most times.
And, when you take the right stand, like take, for example, Chick-fil-A, they're closed on Sunday. It defies the business model, and yet they're a very successful business, $4.1 billion in sales in the last fiscal year. They're going to be blessed for their position on marriage. We want you to also encourage them. You can go to our website at lc.org and sign the Chick-fil-A petition. That petition will be going to Chick-fil-A, Dan Cathy, the president, to show that there's tens of thousands of people and hundreds of thousands of people that support them. And I encourage you, the Chick-fil-A Appreciation Day was August the 1st, but it doesn't just happen on one day. I encourage you to go by there. And when you go to Chick-fil-A, like I did, I went through and I told the person at the window why I was there.
I talked to the manager. Yep.
And they appreciate that. So
they do.
Buy and then also give them the verbal support that they need. And, of course, this pastor in Miami stood up and did the right thing. Liberty Counsel was there to help him. We can only be there to help by your prayers and also by your financial support. Go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org. You can make an online credit card contribution right there on the website. You can also mail in your contribution as well. The website has the address, lc.org. Liberty Counsel is a nonprofit organization, so in addition to not only contributions, we also can provide estate planning for you as well. Go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org. Call us for more information. Sign up for the Liberty Alert in the Grassfire email, and also sign the petition there on the website. That's the petition in support of Chick-fil-A. And for more information, order Rena Linda Volson's book, The Lisa Miller story, only one mommy.